We are talking today about the job market. And the general state of the job market is very, very weird. It's like I put this tweet by Alyssa on the slide because it basically sums up perfectly everything that's happening. Um, Everybody's hiring and nobody's getting hired. Like what's happening here? And I think that this is a sentiment that we can all share because we keep seeing both an enormous amount of tweets and an enormous amount of messages by people who are saying that they're looking for a job and they're struggling finding a job. And at the same time, there's so many posts about hiring, so many job ads. What is happening here? My personal observation is that the market is not in the euphoria of 2021, but it's not also not in the low of 2023. We're kind of like in this weird state somewhere in between, where the capital is back, there's hype. We're in a bear market though, so teams and companies are becoming a little bit more selective and a little bit more strategic in their hiring. When I was starting out in crypto 10 years ago, you could literally get hired off a single tweet. You see something, you're like, oh, that person seems very smart. Let me jump on a GM with them and see if we can hire them. And that's how it was happening back then. This is not the reality anymore. And we are beginning to see a lot more HR and recruitment processes coming in and being set in place. So instead of having a single conversation over Twitter, we would now have to go through like rounds and rounds of interviews, maybe some take-home tasks, skill assessments, and all of that, which is, on the one hand, it's not great because it makes the process very clunky and very long. But on the other hand, it kind of helps teams build really, really strong teams, which is a good thing. So yeah, what we're seeing lately is smaller teams. The companies are strategic about their runways, and this is not like the Wild West anymore. And there are more expectations about people delivering revenue, directly or indirectly. Um, so yeah, the TLDR is that the projects want builders who can ship. They can ship quickly. They can ship stuff that delivers revenue. And this is where we are today. Job hunting in crypto has changed a lot. I feel that job hunting in general has changed a lot, especially since the AI boom. But there are jobs. That's the good news. The jobs are there. We just need to shift our perspective and we need to shift our approach, I believe. And here I'm giving the example of one of our community members, Ria. Back in September, Ria was looking for a new job. And instead of just applying for through like different job boards, she went to social media because she is a social media person. So she found the best way to showcase her skills. She made a video, posted it on X. The video was just a few minutes long, I think less than a couple of minutes long. And she went and described everything that she brings to the table in that video. And she made it funny. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't, you could see that it was a very authentic and very natural video that she put together. And that video exploded. It went viral very quick. I put here the some of the stats. It got over 500,000 views, more than 5,000 likes, uh, 500 comments. I think there were approximately 1,700 saves on the video, if I'm not mistaken. With the grand scheme of things, may not seem like that impressive of a statistic, but when you consider that at the time Ria had less than 1,000 followers on Twitter, that was impressive. And what was more impressive is, and I know that from conversations with her, is that she got multiple conversations started about potential job opportunities. Ria is now looking for a job again, and she did another video, which is not, it didn't go as viral as the first one, But she took a different approach in this case, and she's basically utilizing her free time, her time on her unemployment arc, to gain new skills. And she's documenting her new skills. Everything new that she does, she's documenting on X, which again helps build a public perception of her as somebody who's eager to learn, somebody who's smart, somebody who's driven, and somebody who's resilient. And that's just a good way to position yourself in front of potential employers. I saw a couple of tweets by girls. I don't know who copied who, up, or maybe they came up with that independently, but a couple of girls have posted on X recently that they are hiring for a new employer, and then they go and list what they can bring to the table and how they can, why should people hire them. And I think that this is a really good way to get attention, and it's a really good way to think outside of the box and be like, hey, you should really hire me because I have skills and not because I need a job. As long as we stay creative and we stay resilient, I think that there's a lot that we can do to jump off the page and to shine. And now, like the next few slides, I've put together basically a few tips. A lot of that stuff I have gathered through my own personal experience, through observations, through talking to people in the space. The first tip is you're the product. And that's why I started with that presentation about Priya, because Priya was really good at that. Like, she basically said, hey, I'm the product and I need to sell myself on the job market. How do I do that? So even if you're not a marketer, you have to think as a marketer when you're looking for a new job. You need to make sure that your CV really showcases your skills and your achievements, rather than having like a 10-page long document that has boring bullet points enlisting everything that you've done for all the companies that you've done. Select a few companies that you've worked with that are noteworthy, or companies that you like for some reason more than other companies that you've worked with, and highlight a few achievements that you've done. I coded this thing that's instrumental for that product, or I did a campaign that brought in money into the company. Think about that as your own ad, whether it's on X, on social media, or whether it's a PDF that you submit through applicant tracking systems. Make sure to showcase your successes. And if you have failures that are interesting, put them there as well and show that you've learned from your failures. For example, we were hacked, and we were hacked because of XYZ. And this is what we learned. That was my involvement, and this is what we learned from that process. Make sure that it's easily understandable. Very often we want to do like, a very big, shiny, colorful resume. And that used to be very valid up until recently, but things have changed in the past few months, especially with the use of AI. Most companies are now using AI-enabled platforms for recruitment, and these platforms love the Harvard format of the resume, which is the most boring type of resume or CV that you can imagine, but it's very well structured, and it's structured around achievements and success metrics rather than boring facts. So yeah, just sprinkle that with the things that you're most proud of in your work. Try to quantify if you're able to do that. Again, that depends very much on the position that you have, but try to quantify. For example, I did a campaign that brought in X amount of money. I developed a feature that brought in X number of new users, or I did something that improved the speed of something by this amount of time. Recruiters love quantifiable stuff, because most often the first person who's going to see your resume is not the hiring manager. This is not somebody who has the same domain expertise as you. This is somebody who is supposed to read people and to read resumes and understand who's the person behind that. And the other thing that we need to understand here is that those people have very small attention spans and very large number of applications. So make sure that the recruiter, whoever sees your resume first, can see a something that catches their attention within the first 3 seconds of opening um, your resume. You have a recruiter that is overwhelmed by a huge number of resumes and they don't know where to start. So make sure that there's something that they can grab onto and present to the hiring manager. Quantify anything that you can because numbers are easy to understand. Numbers are easy to present and to sell. If I'm a recruiter and I like your resume, I still need to sell it to the hiring manager and justify my decision to put you on the short list. So make sure that you put all of your achievements. The second tip, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is brace yourself. It's going to be brutal. There's going to be so much rejection in your life during the period you're hunting for a new job. It gets really hard real fast. I have been on the receiving end of that, and I understand how frustrating and how hard could it be. But you have to persevere. You have to set your mental expectations at the right level, and you have to understand that this is not personal. The recruiter on the other side, or like whoever's looking at your CV, they don't know you. All they have is a piece of paper or a PDF with your information. And sometimes they're having a bad day or they're having 800 applications for one single role. So that could be a lot as well. It's overwhelming for them as well. You have to prepare yourself. Sometimes you see an ad and you know that you're perfect for that job ad and you still get a rejection letter based on your resume alone, and it happens. Sometimes companies post fake job ads just so that they can collect market data, and that happens a lot as well. Sometimes, as I said, the recruiter's having a bad day and they're like, I don't like the font that that person used. Is this fair? No, it's not fair. Does it happen? More often than you can think. You just have to set yourself for success and not for failure. You have to keep reminding yourself that this is not personal. It's very easy to slip into that mopey depression mode that is like, oh, why nobody wants to hire me? This is not personal. It's just the reality of the market. The next tip is that it's a numbers game. It's very much related. Yeah, as I said, it's a numbers game. Um, I have a very peculiar skill set, a very niche skill set. I dare say that I have done a lot of things that people may consider hireable in my career. And even for me, sometimes it's 50 or 80 applications before I can land a single interview. And that's okay. That's part of the process. Again, you shouldn't be discouraged by that. One thing that I have found that helps a lot, or at least it helps me a lot, is I always have a spreadsheet. I call this my job tracker. I have a spreadsheet with like different columns where, okay, this is the job, this is the link to the ad, this is the role, this is the status of my application, whether it's applied, rejected resume, rejected an interview, or I've had a couple of interviews scheduled already. I track everything and I put the dates. I always put the dates when I apply. I always put the dates of receiving any sort of feedback to make sure that things have not timed out, as I said. Um, and it just helps. And like this spreadsheet is basically my compass of, hey, this is what, like when you would, especially from the distance of time, when you look back at that and you analyze the data, you can see trends. Sometimes you can be like, oh, I am receiving so many more replies when I am applying for a marketing roles rather than growth roles, for example. So this can help you gather a little bit of clarity as well. The next tip that I have is headhunters. There was recently an article about the reverse headhunter and about how people are basically people who are looking for jobs are going and paying recruiters and headhunters themselves rather than the companies paying the recruiters to source talent. You don't have to pay, at least not in crypto, but there are a lot of really good recruiters out there. Reach out to them, tell them, hey, I am on the market now. I'm available. This is my skill set. This is my resume. What do you have for me? And because these recruiters are getting paid by companies to source good talent, it makes sense for them to have a database of talent. So they appreciate, like, they're not going to be annoyed by you reaching out, or they're not going to be like, oh, yet another person that I need to help. That's literally their job. So reach out, make friends with them. I have the habit of going back to recruiters that I've used before. The good ones that I've worked with, I recommend to friends. Um, so every time I decide to jump ship and have a new job, or I'm unemployed or laid off or whatever, or I've said something stupid and they have fired me, I reach out to my network of recruiters and let them know that I'm in the market for a new job. They already know my skill set. They've had interviews with me to pre-screen me. So that is a really good way to land a new job. It's also good, like if you're in a process already talking about a particular role, I find it very useful to send them updates. So if you're applying for one job with them and you're applying for another job with a different recruiter, for example, or independently, you can tell them, hey, by the way, I'm also applying for this job and this is the status. I have like a second interview with them, just so you know, because it helps them understand timelines, and it helps them rush things when you need things to be rushed a little. The next tip that I have is tell your friends, use your network. We're here networking, creating connections, creating relationships and nurturing them. Use them. Use them. I come from, from Eastern Europe, where nepotism and using your connections is viewed as like something horrible. No, that's not the case. Seriously, that is why we're doing what we're doing. This is why we're networking, and this is why we're connecting with people. Tell your friends, ask them if their companies are hiring. Right now, I have on my roster, which is basically a mental note that I have in my head, but I have four people who are actively searching for jobs. And like even today, when I was preparing for this presentation, I saw a few job ads that were suitable for them. And I'm like, oh, this one is very suitable for you. You should apply. Or I know somebody at that company. Let's see if I can get you an interview. Use your friends, use the people that you know. And why I put perhaps, that is something I'm going to go on like a little side quest here. Recently, a girl in the Soul Sisters chat asked if we can recommend her for a job. And unfortunately, I had to say no. The reason I said no is I have not worked with her. I don't know her personally. We're not friends in this, like friends. We're Soul Sisters friends, but not friends. And when I recommend somebody, I put my reputation on the line. So I want to make sure that I'm only recommending people that I have worked with and I have true impression of their work ethics, of their skill set, and what they can bring to the table. If one of you comes to me and asks me for a recommendation, I would probably say no. Will I make an introduction? Yes. An introduction by all means. I'll be like, hey, I know you're looking for this type of person. I have this person on the community. And again, that's why we're building the talent hub and all that. An introduction by all means. A referral, that's a tricky one. And keep that in mind when your friends ask you for referrals as well. Like make sure that you have worked with that person and you know that they're not going to make you look bad in front of prospective employers or other people in the industry. The next tip is Telegram groups. I was very skeptical about Telegram groups at the beginning. I was very old school and going to job boards or X and LinkedIn. The fact of the matter is that there is a bunch of Telegram groups. They mostly use bots that source job opportunities from different sources. And I find it very easy to open a Telegram chat, scroll through the new messages, and every new message is a new job opportunity. Scroll through them, see which one is suitable for me, and apply right away. Most of the times you already have a resume ready to go. You have all your like socials ready to copy paste, so you can apply within minutes. and it's a really good way. And we have a bunch of groups for Web3 specific jobs, and I'm happy to share them if you want. There are even more niche groups that are kind of like, okay, marketers in Web3, or growth people in Web3, or BD people. So take advantage of those groups. Some of the groups would ask you to fill in a form so that they post an introduction, a little blurb about yourself. I sit on one of those groups, and I've gotten a job from that group twice, where you say, I'm looking for a job. This is my skill set. This is what I bring to the table. And then recruiters would, they lurk around those groups and they will get in touch with you. I've created a recruitment folder in my Telegram. And when I'm looking for a job, or when I'm scouting for good opportunities for the Soul Sisters community, I just go through those Telegram chats and I just repost. But also, a lot of other groups like that have that same thing. For example, if you're a DevRel and you have like a chat for DevRels where you discuss work issues and like stuff that helps you in your job, those groups usually have a jobs tab. A lot of conference groups like ETH for example, they have a designated jobs opportunities chat. SheFi, they have a jobs opportunity chat. So a lot of strategic groups have a lot of opportunities, and very often there, even if there isn't a designated jobs or recruitment channel, they would just post job opportunities on the group. Like, for example, there's a group where I sit for security researchers, and whenever somebody's hiring an auditor or a security researcher, they would post there and they'll be like, because this is where all the specialists are. They're like, it's a no-brainer to go to that group. Same with my marketers groups. They always post there, hey, I'm looking for that person. You have no idea how many jobs are filled without even a proper job ad, by a simple message, by simply activating one's contacts and network. When I'm hiring, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for this type of person. Does anybody have a recommendation? Without even posting a job ad. Our last DevRel, we hired like that. We didn't even have a job ad live, and we hired somebody amazing. Beat the ATS. Oof, that's a tough one. An ATS is an applicant tracking system, which is basically a very simple version of AI that matches keywords from the job description or the job ad to keywords from your resume. And if the ATS rejects you, your resume is not shown to a person. What helps is, and I know it's a lot of work, but if you're actively looking for a new job, if you're unemployed and not just like casually shopping for a new position, it helps to use ChatGPT or Claude to run your resume through the job ad, and then the AI will rewrite your resume so that it includes the right, like you still have the same skill set. Nobody's lying on your resume, but the AI is reframing. You can do it manually as well, but it just takes a little bit longer. It's reframing your resume so that it has a better keyword match so that you can go through. Which leads me to the next topic, SEO your LinkedIn. LinkedIn has recently significantly changed their algorithm, and LinkedIn right now is actually not a bad place to look for a new job. There are also a bunch of settings that you can toggle to make yourself discoverable. And I'm not talking about open to work only. You have, like, that's the most basic one, but there are also other settings that you can play with to make sure that you're more discoverable. Because again, most of us are using the normal free version of LinkedIn. Recruiters are using LinkedIn Pro that has like search capabilities and acts like, again, sort of like an applicant tracking system. The next tip, and that's something that is a little bit niche, create a portfolio. Put together a little Notion page or a PDF even, or a simple website that you did in Canva. Just highlights. This doesn't need to be comprehensive. It doesn't need to have like your full employment history and like your full skill set. Create a portfolio of your highlights, because again, if you remember from the first slide, you are the product. This is your ad that you put on the internet. That's me. This is what I do. It's short, it's simple, it's easy to send. You have it always on you. So if somebody mentions, hey, I heard that this company is hiring, give me your resume and I'll pass it to them. You're like, oh, there you go. Here's that link. Here's my portfolio. And when I say portfolio, people usually think about like designers. It doesn't need to be a design portfolio per se. You don't need to be a designer to have a portfolio. As a marketer, I have a portfolio of good campaigns that I've done. As a DevRel, again, you can have like, I don't know, a portfolio that showcases the public talks that you have done. If you like to speak on stage, for example, and you get to speak at many conferences, put together a little page with like recordings, the YouTube recordings of your talk so that people can get an impression of who you are and what you can bring to the table. And then put a link to your resume, put a link to your social profiles. Just you can use the Linktree platform or one of the Linktree alternatives, like the crypto specific versions of Linktree as well. You can use, just convert that into your portfolio and your ad. And the last tip that we have, well, actually, there's another one that I want to talk about, and I'll mention it. But the last one is know your worth. There is a statistic that the majority of women would not apply for a job if they do not match at least 85% of the requirements in a job. And that's why men get a lot more jobs than women do, because we tend to be a little bit more shy when it comes to tooting our own horns. But we should do that. We should have the audacity of men and see one thing out of 10 that matches our expertise and be like, let's do that. What's the worst that can happen? And apply for jobs. And the other statistic, unfortunately, is that there's still a huge pay gap, especially in countries like the United States, not so much in Europe, but also in Europe. There's a pay gap, and women get paid less. Use all the resources that you have at your disposal to understand salary benchmarks. And when you're negotiating salaries and when you're asking, because that's usually one of the first questions that they ask, or usually the last question that they ask at the first interview. What's your salary expectations? Don't be shy, have a range prepare, and do not underestimate yourself. Try to like figure out where you stand on the pay scale, and be realistic. The other thing that I have found helpful is to make sure, if you're flexible on your pay requirements, to make sure that you state it. So when I'm asked about a salary expectation, I always give a range. I never give like one exact number. I give a range. That range should not be too huge, and I always make sure to mention that this is negotiable, because a lot of companies are in the startup stage, so they can't really offer you the pay right now, but they have the potential to offer you the pay 3 months in or 6 months in. And in the meantime, they can compensate that through other perks. If you're more junior, something else that really, really helps is you may settle for a lower salary initially on the condition that there's a dedicated mentor for you. So part of your pay is going to come in the form of skill set upgrades and mentorship and learning, so that you're going to get from a junior, from like an entry level to a junior, or from a junior to mid level much faster than you would on your own. And then the last tip, like this tip is not on its own slide. I don't know why not. Be fast. Be fast when you apply. Make it a habit. If you're actively searching for a job, make it a habit. Get your morning coffee, sit at your computer, scroll through your Telegram groups for an hour or 2 hours. Like, give yourself like a window. Like, okay, I'm going to be applying for jobs within this 1 hour. Sit, apply for the new jobs. And when you do that every day, there's not going to be that many new opportunities every day. Some days there's not going to be any. And some days there's going to be like, I don't know, one, five, depends. But when you make it a habit, it gets really easy. It's kind of like, oh, how do I start my work day? I check my Slack messages and I check my email. That is going to be your Slack messages and email. You sit down, you scroll through the groups, you check the job boards, you apply for the new roles, and then rinse and repeat the next day. But it's important that you apply within the first I would say 48 hours tops. The more you wait and the longer the you extend that application after the job ad has been published, the lower your chances of scoring an interview. And that's it. Go get that job, girls. You can do it. You deserve it. Slay.